Lee is getting British, according to Cousin Shop. I don't know quite how that's possible, but anyway, I'm here with the man, the myth, the talent. This is just holy hell, Croft. How are you, sir?
I'm fine and dandy. I don't think you're getting more British. Then again, I don't know. I don't know that we can rate the level of intelligence of your customers, considering these are people who are shouting at people for wearing masks after the mask mandate ended.
You wearing a mask offends me.
My freedoms. So I would be comfortable to call that myth busted just based on that evidence alone.
I mean, because anytime I talk to anyone back in the UK, they say, "Oh, it sounds so Australian." I was like, I don't think I do.
I don't know, but like I know when I go overseas, I turn the ochre up without even noticing that I'm doing it. Like especially in places like the US, the UK, they don't give a shit about Australians. They're so over Australians in the UK. You grew up with Neighbours and Home and Away and Kylie Minogue, so like Aussies are a dime a dozen there. But like if I'm in the States, all you got to do to get anywhere is just call someone mate. I don't. People who know me, no, I don't call people mate terribly often. But in the States, everyone's g'day mate. How's it going? I got a booking mate. And they're like, oh, I love your accent. Where are you from? England. Yes, I am very much. Fuck you. Mixed Foxy B says, I get that the longer I'm here, the more people call me out as a Kiwi. Maybe it's like you'll double down on your like. There was a point in time where my ex-partner and I would ensure that we took every opportunity to make George say the word auction.
Auction.
That's why.
Auction.
Lord Pitt the Elder. Just to hear him say auction. He pronounces it funny.
It never got old.
It really, really didn't. But anyway, we won't hold that against you. You're from where you're from, right? Home is home. Miss Foxy B is a Kiwi. We do not hold that against her. She's one of our regular viewers.
Yeah, great to see you, Foxy B. Also, I into my messages on Twitch, and CaroKitty3369 recommended Flight of Dragon. You left us a lovely little message saying that she was very sick. She wasn't able to get to the show last time, but she had a couple of thoughts on and here we go. Terribly sorry for missing a live show. Wind, snow killed my... I did watch the recorded stream today. I'm sorry Travis wasn't able to enjoy Flight of Dragons. I still enjoy it, but I have the nostalgia with that one. Still think Omadon won in the end, if you relate to current times. And the Tree of Antiquity did say the future Peter returns to as the closing decades. As an adult, I noticed an animation Semitism issue, which is pretty common with animation at the time. But as a little kid, didn't even think of it. Some of the anti-Semitism in Disney and Looney Tunes, etc., as well as racism, sexism, all that. Yeah.
What a wonderful... Thank you very much, CaroKitty, for listening to the show. So, Foxy, just to confirm, you can hear George having a bit of a funny lag thing on his mic as well? Because I can hear it here, but he can't hear it. I'm having a weird lag at my end as well, but I'll just keep talking while he does technical stuff because it's what he does. It's why we keep him around. I didn't say that.
It's not. I pull things out and push back in, hope for the best.
Thank you for letting us know, Foxy. We will attempt to get George's audio issue corrected. It is a bit of an echo at my end as well. But so thank you.
How is that? Is that any better?
It's not the same quality, but you've got no echo, so we'll take it. Huh?
Got no echo. Okay.
How does that sound to you, Foxy? You are our eyes in the sky.
You are a bit of tester.
Break it early.
Yeah.
But I'll just finish up and say thank you very much for listening to the show on recording and for giving us your thoughts on Flight of Dragons. I would agree. If you go back through Disney and Looney Tunes history, they got some stuff in there. But then I want you to see there's some stuff that Disney aren't putting on Disney Plus. Let me tell you right now.
Well, that would probably end going on Disney Star with little card start of it saying, yeah, this represents a time that we no longer are okay with, blah, 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 blah. How's my audio now?
I'm still getting an echo. I don't know about you, Foxy.
Yeah. For some, I'll go back.
Won't get the echo.
That's better, at least. I was going to say, when I was a kid, like just to sort of echo Karaki's thoughts, I grew up watching cartoons like Heckle and Jekyll. Do you remember Heckle and Jekyll?
Heckle and Jekyll.
Didn't have that one in the UK?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Two black crows, and basically, I didn't realize this at the time. I just thought it was a funny cartoon, but the whole thing was basically a parody of minstrel shows, and the two Heckle and Jekyll, the two crows, were very stereotypical African American characters, and we still aren't having a lot of luck with your audio now. I'm still getting an echo at your end,
even now.
Occasionally, we'll soldier on.
Yeah, well, I think that this is the best we're going to be able to do because we don't know what could be wrong. See, we don't. I'm trying. There's nothing I can do, but never mind. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to do. This works. Move things around. I don't know if will actually do anything. Let's give this a try. See if anything pops up in the chat because it could come up. There we go. Messages will be displayed. Oh, it's just incredibly slow behind. There we go.
What could possibly be wrong about the crows?
Okay.
Well, if you, I mean, as a child, you wouldn't have realized it, but if you're as an adult, like a little bit like Kara Kitty was saying, but like if you're familiar with the tropes that racists used, like the funny long nose in Flight of Dragons, or the way the crows talked in Heckle and Jekyll.
Yeah.
You realize that that's what they're doing. You understand the Oh, okay. Fair enough. But maybe not all our listeners are familiar with it because like somehow George missed Heckle and Jekyll. Maybe it was an American cartoon. It wasn't Australian.
It does me think of the crows in Dumbo, though.
Like very much like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all right. Should we get on?
Let's. No, I think logging out and logging back in, we just cancel the whole show, Foxy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's got the keys, so I can't keep.
I need to up the computer because there's a little bit of steam coming out the back every time I turn it on or think about turning it on. But shall we go into Shane movie or shall we get the more recent thing of Falcon and Winter Soldier done from first?
Let's just see if we have a way of doing things now. Our adoring public expect things of us now.
Yes.
And I think let's go with our chain movie, which of course this week is Time Bandits.
Bandits. Yeah. Yes. Now this was one of your picks.
It was. We were following Jim Broadbent here this week from last week's Bright Young Things, which George didn't finish. And this, of course, is a Terry Gilliam joint. It is written by Michael Palin and Terry Gilliam, directed by Terry Gilliam. It screams Terry Gilliam. Like,
oh yeah,
it's the Terry Gilliam, it's the Gilliamest thing that ever Gilliamed. It's just outrageously Gilliam. Like, I've never seen this before, but I have seen Baron von Munchausen, which I think you and I watched for the show a while back.
Yeah, we did.
And I think we watched Brazil for the show as well.
We did, and that rounds that trilogy of imagination.
And they are like, this film reminds me very much of the Adventures of Baron von Munchausen, more so than Brazil. Though you can again, the aesthetic is very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's some interesting notes when you look at Wikipedia. It's like Gilliam refers to the events of the first trilogy of imagination, followed by Brazil, and then Adventures of Baron Munchausen. All are about the craziness of awkwardly or society and the desire to escape it through whatever possible. All three films focus on these struggles and attempts to escape from imagination. Time Bandits through the eye of a child, Brazil through the eyes of a man in his 30s, and much of the eyes of an elderly man. Which, it's an interesting working at those. I wouldn't have kind of made that kind of const trilogy or anything like that. But I get that point now, looking back.
It was for me, I guess, like, I put them together in my head because I was like, let's be honest, I didn't like this film. I didn't like it at all. But I was saying to myself going, maybe I just don't like Gilliam because I didn't like Bandits of Baron von Munchausen. I thought Brazil was overrated. It's better than this, but I don't think it's all that as like people make it out to be. But then I thought to myself, no, I like 12 Monkeys. I liked Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But I thought to myself, but those films feel nothing like this film. Those films feel nothing like the Imagination trilogy you just outlined there. They're very different. Obviously, they are also based on pre-existing properties. You know, Fear and Loathing being the book. I think 12 Monkeys was based on a book or something as well.
The Hamster Factory.
So maybe that's what the influence there is. Maybe that I don't get Gilliam as a creator from start to finish, as opposed to Gilliam as purely a director. But I certainly got that feeling with those three films sort of stuck together in my head just because of the aesthetic.
Yes, definitely. They are, when you look at the way that they're filmed, the way they look, the way they feel, it is so quintessential of films, for one thing, and British movies of that time, because this was before likes of Film 4 in the late 90s and the early 2000s, where they were starting to really build a kind of born and raised film industry, so more than had done in decades. Handmade Films was co-founded by Harrison of the Beatles, and he was a huge fan of the Monty Python guys. One of the reasons why a lot of the early Terry Gilliam Handmade Films just love those guys, and he was put on record as saying the Monty Python are for comedy what Beatles were to rock. Like, that's not so far.
He funded The Life of Brian, famously saying because he wanted to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this movie and Brazil and Baron Munchausen, they definitely have kind of feel them of these wouldn't have ever been greenlit in a normal system. This is someone with a lot of just going, I can make that because I see it. We'll pump it, we'll push it out, and that's what happened.
That said, though, it goes to show how foolish they would have been, at least on this film, because this film was made for approximately $5 million. Was, I believe, the 10th highest grossing film of 1981. It made $42 million worldwide. So Mr. Harrison and everyone involved, including, I think, Mr. Connery, who was probably the headline star of this film, did quite well off the back of it. But those who invested in Baron von Munchausen significantly worse, well, considering that's a historic flop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we tell people what it's about? We haven't actually told. We've done the usual thing. The synopsis for Time Bandits. A young boy accidentally joins a band of time-traveling dwarves. They jump from era to era looking for treasure to steal.
And I think that's the best way I could really sum this movie up, because otherwise you end kind of falling into these weird rabbit holes in much a Terry character kind of way, because there's the subplot of what's his name, the little boy is Richard, right? Is it Richard?
Kevin,
yes, Kevin. Why was I thinking Richard? I don't know. He is basically a bit of a nerd, a bit of a geek, who is kind of all but forgotten about by his parents, who are in this race of kind of keeping up with the Joneses with their neighbors about new technology and gadgets in our house. Isn't that amazing? We don't really know what's going on with our child. And that's actually kind of the running theme of a lot of 80s British stuff, is parents kind of not giving a shit about what their kids are doing. Maybe that explains a few things about me.
He's not the only Kevin. He's not the only Kevin I can think of in cinematic history whose parents weren't paying attention.
Oh, I don't know what other Kevin could possibly be thinking.
So we meet the parents, who of the parents of Kevin, who is very well played by a young actor whose name is not appearing here. Didn't get particularly good crediting for this film, young Kevin. Craig Warnock, who I don't think went on to do a great deal else in the world. He did no other films after this, which is surprising because he was not bad at this. He wasn't like Jake Lloyd bad or anything like that. But David Dacre
chose to away.
David Dacre and Sheila Fern played Kevin's mother and father. And as you say, they're kind of really not paying attention to what he's up to. They're kind of pretty bad parents. He has a wild imagination, a love of history, and somehow the time-traveling dwarves find their way using a map and perhaps taking a wrong turn using their map, end up appearing in his wardrobe one night, and essentially because they're being chased by the Supreme Being to get the map back. Supreme Being played by Ralph Richardson, who I feel like I should know who that is, but I don't.
No, that is wasn't it David Warner who played the Supreme?
Am I correct? So Supreme Being played by Ralph Richardson.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, David Warner, Evil Genius. That's right.
So similar. And he basically joins the dwarves on their time traveling adventure as they sort of travel through history, stealing from anybody and everybody, from Napoleon to attempting to rob Robin Hood and Agamemnon. The big names in the cast aren't in it very much. So Sean Connery and John Cleese have top billing here. Sean Connery basically plays King Agamemnon. And he plays a brief cameo as a fireman towards the end. John Cleese has one scene as Robin Hood. Shelley Duvall and Michael Palin have a couple of scenes together. Ian Holm has one scene. In
the role that he's played more than any other, I think being Napoleon so many times now in his career, it's ridiculous.
And I think we have. I think that's probably pretty much it when it comes to the big stars. And
you're forgetting Kenny Baker, the guy inside ID too.
Jim Broadbent, our chain link to this film, plays a TV compere in a couple of different scenes in a very, very Python-esque role. And that kind of Python feeling, I mean, it's unavoidable considering the writers, Gilliam and Palin being key parts of the Python crew. It's unavoidable in here, but it's Python light. I think the best things that Python ever did were things where they collaborated mostly, because you've got you've got everything in there. You've got that surreal genius that is Terry Gilliam, and he was smoking all the good shit to do with stuff that he did. You got that sort of very upper crust, polite rudeness that sort of John Cleese did so well, versus the manic energy of your Eric Idles and your Graham Chapmans and the very polite young man of nice guy of a crew, Michael Palin, and Terry Jones. It's just everything they did together. Just one of those things where the right people were in the right room at the right time, and everything just worked. Yeah. I think separately their work isn't as good. Faulty Towers maybe aside, even then I don't think Faulty Towers is the equal of anything Python did.
Yeah, I would agree with that. They to a certain degree, they've all had these good successes, like Faulty Towers. Fish Wonder was certainly a very successful critical success, Oscar winner.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's good. It doesn't stand the time too much. It's kind of like I remember that more fondly.
Like you mentioned Harrison saying they were the Beatles of comedy, and I think it's like the analogy here. Like George Harrison did some amazing work by himself. Paul McCartney, John Lennon did some amazing work solo, but nothing they did solo ever came close to the work they did with all those three guys and Ringo in a room. Three geniuses and Ringo. The work they did together was amazing, and just like even if something is really good, like Harrison and Lennon's solo work or whatever, or the stuff that Paul McCartney did with Wings, you can't compare it to what the Beatles did.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think I think that's one of the for me with this is that, Kuro Kitty was talking about nostalgia factor for Flight of Dreams, still being able to go back to it. This I have for this so much. This is one of the early movies that I remember ever watching, and I remember it. I think this was one of those formative movies for me where it just inspired me to do the shit that I do. Where it's modern, it's a bit steampunky, it's fantasy, it's just fucked up, weird, psychotropic, bizarre, but it's also so bleak as fuck. The ending, my God, it is so depressing. It's like, yeah, no. Oh, you think Pixar movies make you cry at the end? No, sorry, it's just raw, real life. Try to eat that for sadness.
I think the difference here is that you care about the characters in Pixar films. You don't care about the characters in this film.
That's
maybe
true.
aside from Kevin. I didn't care about the characters in this film at all. You're right. If you saw it as a kid, and this is the thing, I think this is supposed to be a kid's film, right?
I think so.
I did not know that.
It's not. It doesn't look like it.
Yeah, no, I didn't think it was until I started watching it. I'm like, I think this was made for children.
Yeah.
And
this
maybe
is for children in the 80s.
Yeah, maybe Kara Kitty has a point there of her nostalgia for Flight of Dragons, and for if you saw it as a kid, then maybe you'd have that. But as a grown adult seeing it for the first time, it was tiresome. It was too long. It's an hour and 50 minutes. It needed 20, 30 minutes hacked out of it easily. Much too long. It wasn't funny. I didn't. Any time I actually genuinely laughed at this, and it was John Cleese as Robin Hood. John Cleese as Robin Hood was brilliant in this film. And this is one of the best things I've seen Cleese do. Because I think I read in the trivia he intended to base it off like the royal family meeting people. And I'm like, yep, that's exactly what that is. It's, hello, how are you? What's your name? That's a nice name. Thank you ever so much.
I kind of feel like John Cleese is a bit of a one-note wonder in many, but when he married it so well with the material, like what we talked about with Gal Gadot, so like she knows what to do. People like Jenkins knew how in the first Wonder Woman, knew where to play to get the best performance out of it. And John Cleese is great at taking that little statistical element of the aristocracy and just making them stupid always. And it's always nice to see those up on high knocked down. And he does it marvelously.
I think it's a bit rude to say he's a one-note wonder. I mean, it's a world away from Basil Fawlty to his character in The Fish Called Wanda, for example. He does tend to play the hoity-toity, upper-class twit kind of character more so. But I mean, Basil Fawlty wasn't upper class. Basil Fawlty wanted to be upper class.
Yeah, but that's where he was still got to kind of bring across that upper classness or John Cleese, but it was funny because it was the other side, and especially in that period of time, so many people were trying to at least appear above their station. This was a very recent time in when the town was coming through just social levels of society, and it was they made so many TV shows and comedy shows basically doing that thing, and John Cleese just does it better than anyone.
And again, I will agree, but I think he does his best when he's combined with that talent. I think it's true of any great genius. I think when that genius is filtered through having to work with other people of the same ability, it's when we get their best work. I haven't talked about Time Bandits very much.
That's a good point. Because there's not too much to really say.
Michael Palin's character was funny. I enjoyed his work with Shelley Duvall as Vincent and Pansy. They are recurring characters in a couple of different time periods who the dwarves and Kevin jump back to and end up basically cock-blocking Michael Palin a little bit. And look, he plays pathetic well, Michael Palin. He is a talent. I say he is a talented guy. He doesn't work like that anymore. But He was very funny. And Shelley Duvall, I haven't seen her do comedy before. Really, all she's famous for me is The Shining.
Yeah.
I know she played Olive Oil in Popeye, but I don't know that I've ever
so
seen.
bad. Never watched that. Never.
And I think there's a clip of her on the internet doing TV shows where she just introduces herself for 3 minutes, going, "Hi, I'm Shelley Duvall." But I'd never seen her do comedy before, and she was very good working opposite Michael Palin in very brief cameos. Sean Connery has. If you ever wonder, if you have a kid in your life or a young person in your life who wonders who the fuck was Sean Connery? Why was he so big? This might be the film to make them watch, because he absolutely blows everybody else off the screen with his magnetism and charisma in a 5-10 minute segment.
Yeah, if that.
And that's it. He's on it for you worked in this for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And in 5-10 minutes, I mean, John Cleese is kind of a movie star. Palin's done big movies before. All these guys have done, Ian Holm's been in big movies before. But Sean Connery, you walk away, he is a fucking movie star. He is so charismatic, and he's like, instantly my interest in this film jumped 50%. All the time that he was on screen, everything he does on screen is absolutely compelling. You can't take your eyes off him. And the thing is that I think Gilliam actually noted him. This is at the nadir of his career at this point in time. He'd finished doing Bond, and he was just sort of fucking around and not really doing very much. But he is so good as King Agamemnon. It was nice to see him pop up again in the cameo at the end as the fireman. That that was probably the most entertaining part of the film for me, was just seeing him doing Sean Connery stuff. Yeah,
because in his career, it was a busy year for him for 81. He did this, and he also did. It's woefully underrated, but Outland, sci-fi movie, and it's actually really good. Maybe I'm too much on it, but I really enjoyed it.
Was that the year he did Zardoz?
No, Zardoz was think later.
If you haven't seen Zardoz, you haven't lived. It's just so bad.
He came back 2 years later to the Bond in Never Say Never Again, which is the unofficial Bond. Then it was 86 before he turned up in Highlander. And then it was then the Rose, Untouchables, Pacifico, Indiana Jones, Hunt for Red October.
The world's most famous Scottish Russian sub-captain. Comrades, together we shall destroy the capitalist pig.
It's just so good in Hunter, where he's a Spanish peacock that spent such time in Japan. He's got a thick Scottish accent.
Zardoz was 1974, so the year. So that's it's worth watching just for Connery's part, if you're a big fan, maybe. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of comment in here about contemporary British society in the late 70s, early 80s. I didn't live there then, so it kind of goes a lot over my head. I didn't really get the evil genius character particularly well. It wasn't funny. He wasn't particularly evil. It was just the final scene, the battle scene where they the dwarves turn up with all their, I guess they're like a tank and some Greek archers and cowboys and stuff to try and fight him, was mildly entertaining.
I feel like for that sequence, it should have just gone full Monty, and it would have been so funny. People had just clicking coconuts together and stuff like that, and just gone, you know what? We're just literally going to throw everything at this, and just how stupid it is. Let's just fully embrace that. But they didn't. They kept it kind of within the realms of what they'd made, which is respectful.
Did you enjoy it though? I mean, if you have a nostalgia factor.
It's always one that I look forward to watching, and then I get halfway through and I go, I don't remember this. This is so hard to watch. It feels like want to watch it now. I think about it far more fondly than when I'm actually watching it. I think it's now one of those movies where it's kind of, let's just put that up a shelf. Fond memories, not gonna watch it again because I know every time I take it out of that seal saying wrapper, it gets a little older and crustier.
It I would say it doesn't hold up to 2021. It's not Gilliam's best work, and
No.
I was it was disappointing for me. I was really looking forward to this. It's really highly rated. It's got great ratings, so a 7 on IMDb. The gods must be crazy. Case in point. What do you mean by that, Miss Foxy B? Is that a film you more fondly remember in your memory than if you watched it today? I suspect you'd be right. I suspect that film wouldn't hold up. I think it would be kind of racist in 2021. I recall that. I saw that film a lot when I was a kid. Have you ever seen that, George?
No.
It's a South African movie, which is interesting. I don't think we're ever going to get a connection to it because it's like it was like this little for want of a better term, indie South African movie about a bushman from the Kalahari Desert who somehow finds his way into modern society. So it's think Crocodile Dundee, but more racist.
Okay.
But in the 80s, when it came out, there was a sequel as well, which is very popular. The sequel, I remember
necessary sequels.
Shall we you're going to move on to a necessary sequel?
Yeah, I don't feel like I've got any more to say on Time Bandits.
Very, very well. Then before you do that, though, you have the keys.
Yeah, it's true. I do have the keys. And I'm going to take us on a little bit of a weird choice. I'm going to go to Sean Connery's final movie, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Wow, they a much maligned Sean Connery movie.
Yeah. It was played during production. The sets literally got fly out of Prague. Sean Connery and Steve Norrington, the guy who directed the first Blade movie, really didn't like each other apparently. Based off of Alan Moore graphic novels of the same name, which is fucked up. It is fucked up. And so we will go and check that one out.
I always thought it was such a cool idea for a movie, and I was so disappointed at how I don't know if I've actually ever seen the whole thing, but I heard enough to know that it didn't go well, and it was such a cool idea, and you're like, maybe they should remake that.
Yeah, I do recommend reading at least the first collected books of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen because it's really, really good. Really, it's very typical Alan Moore style storytelling but not art. It's amazing, and it's just fucking toll. And shit that Mr. Hyde does is insane. They will never, ever get the Hulk doing shit like that.
You're confusing me with someone who has the time to read for pleasure.
I thought you chose to be a filthy student.
I would like to read. I do like Alan Moore's books. I enjoyed V for Vendetta. I enjoyed Watchmen very much. So I would love to read it at some point in time. But League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the 2003, much maligned Sean Connery film will be our film for next week. Now, George is going to tell us about his punishment from last week. You are correct. I believe that is how the film started.
Okay. All right.
You kind of got to see it.
All right. Fair enough. So, yes, because I couldn't make it through Young Things, I nominated myself for punishment. And Travis, doing it, I'm teasing a potential crossover of podcasts. He had just watched Poison Ivy for Throwback Podcasts, available on all good podcasting services. And this inspired him to hurt me with Poison Ivy 2, starring Alyssa Milano. And Xander Berkeley is the other person in it that I really know. Camilla Bello is in it, but I don't actually remember her in it. And well, I was talking to one of my workers today, and I had mentioned how I had to watch this, and I ended up watching it at 2 a.m. this morning because I finished playing D&D, and then I realized I still hadn't watched this. And I was talking to her about it. She went, "Oh yeah, but that movie, I had such a crush on the guy." Which is played by Jonathan Shaish. A character called Graydon. And I was shocked there was anyone who would watch this. And she said, "Oh, but it had Alyssa Milano in it." And I said, "Yeah, I never really the Alyssa Milano thing. I missed all of Charmed, and yeah, I think was she Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter in Condo?
I think she might have been, yeah. But she was on a sitcom as well, but initially was it Charles in Charge or Who's the Boss
Something like that. Who's the Boss?
Yeah.
So apart from Condo, I don't know if I ever actually seen her in anything. But for those who care, and there's no one. Poison Ivy 2 is about the first time out of Miss Lily starts art school in LA and shares a house with other young artistic people. Both a teacher, roomie/classmate show interest in her. And I've not watched Poison Ivy. I have no intention of watching Ivy. I have no intent of watching any of the sequels Poison Ivy, and I yet have somehow managed to watch Poison Ivy 2. And this, I have a feeling that this is sort of shit that the writer of fucking Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey series, that I imagine this is what they look at and go, yeah, it's hot, this is cool, because it's done as like a softcore porn or a softcore erotica.
I was talking about this last night. I recorded the throwback last night where we reviewed the first Poison Ivy, and I think it was fair to say that the erotic thriller was a staple of the 80s and early 90s cinema, like The Color of Night, Body Heat, Basic Instinct. The sexy, erotic thriller was kind of, you don't see them very much anymore.
No. And I think that's very much a good thing, because watching this movie, it's cruddy. Not necessarily from production or anything like that, but Xander Berkeley, who is one of those faces that everyone goes, "Oh, I know him." Made Todd, who is John Connor's stepfather, Terminator 2. He's been kind of in a bit of everything.
He was actually in a documentary. I think I've talked about it on the show before, called "Aren't You That Guy?"
Yeah,
or something about nature. Basically, it's a documentary about people who play, character roles, I guess, for want of a better term, in popular movies, and people walk up to them and go, "Aren't you that guy?" And no one actually knows who he is.
Yeah,
they just recognize him.
So he plays Alyssa Milano's art teacher, who's such a stereotypical idea of what an art teacher at uni is, and it's not what they're like. So not any of the art teachers that I've ever had, but the creep factor certainly does come, and he is really fucking. The movie opens with just the sound of a woman having period, and it's slowly comes to like reveals him and this young person having in as is later revealed is an art. And then he kind of just seems to just get bored and step off as so like, this isn't working anymore. And she's like, all right, bye. And you never see her again. And then cuts to another stereotype. Alyssa Milano turns up bucket hat with sort of like dungarees and this sort of like ill-fitting clothing, loads of, she's literally fresh off the bus coming into LA. She's 2 weeks late, get to LA, and she finds this house and she meets Greg, who's just sort of parking up his bike, and it's like, my God, this is just cliche on cliche. But then, and it doesn't really do anything. I think it's supposed to be an exploration. It's not a fucking thrill. I'll put that straight away. This is maybe like a young adult drama, because it's later on. There's one little monologue at the end where Lily, Alyssa Milano's explains, trying to justify all of the actions for everything that's culminated in the movie. And it's like, yeah, those are possible explanations of why you're being a bitch and why you were being the way you were, but it doesn't justify any of it. And it's kind of trying to show itself as like a young girl out of Michigan trying to find who she really is, and you have to go through trial by fire to come out and see what's put off, what's changed, all of that stuff. Thrown in with some very, very soft petting, I guess, is the sexual element, and LA in the like early 90s, everyone was just so free and easy to have sex with, and everyone's just like, oh yeah, I'm Alyssa Milano's at this bar. They've set up an actual bar at this impromptu house party that they're having, and a guy in a mask comes up and it's like, I'm just going to give you, I can't remember what he calls it. It's like the warm welcome, I think, and he just starting this piece of down her very revealing top, and just kisses her and then walks off as like, okay, fine, that's the world they're letting in. And it just gets creepy because she becomes Xander Berkeley's character, Donald, becomes obsessed with her. He apparently has an expectation or he is has a taste for 21-year-old students in his program, which is just fucking creepy. And the fact that he looks a lot old, well, it's like, he's not a handsome guy. He's trying to be that so sophisticated and sully that it's just unbelievable attractive intelligence and kind of analytical thinking of art and appreciating what it means to be everything in soul. But it's sort of like, no, he's just going, and then just touching her face, gently moving her. It's like this is like bad fanfic porn. It's not good.
So I'm going to go on a limb here and say it wasn't good.
It was not good. It was not good. And I got 30 minutes into the movie before I realized I had been checking how much of the movie watched every 5 minutes.
That's a good sign, right? It's just a 1 hour 46-minute film, and that can fit. 1 hour 46 can go on a snap of fingers, but when it's really bad, it can feel like 4 hours.
Yeah,
I think you've learned your lesson.
I have learned my lesson, very much so. Very much so. And
should we move on to something a little bit?
Yes,
should we move on to something a little bit more pleasing than Poison Ivy 2? So there are 2 other sequels to this, I believe. So what's a good fanfic porn? Well, I believe the 50 Shades of Grey started out as Twilight fan fiction porn.
I think so, yeah.
So, if I'm not mistaken, I wouldn't say it was good, but it was fucking successful. E.L. James made a shit ton of money from that garbage. Otherwise, I wouldn't know anything about that kind of thing.
If you're interested, just check out Reddit and all of the threads there.
Delete the browser history. Delete the browser history.
No, be proud of porn. Destroy the stigma.
Yes. Okay.
Let's go on to Falcon and Winter Soldier.
episode 3.
So 3 things are cooking.
Yes, we interestingly at first this pretty episode took a very similar direction to what you suggested last week of Zemo escaping from prison with Falcon. It was spoilers, ladies and gentlemen, so everyone else who doesn't identify as either. If you don't want to know anything about what's happened in this week's episode, you can just skip ahead. So we Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl, who's a great actor. Actor, I think, a really underrated actor. With escapes with Bucky and Falcon, in the sense that he might be able to give them a lead on tracking down the Flag Smashers, and they take off to Madripoor. Is that what it's called?
Madripoor, yes. Which seems to be. Is that actually a real place?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but it's a bit of a hodge of styles, a bit of like an anti-Wakanda in some ways. Where
the Pirate Kingdom would retain their lawless ways, I think they said in the episode.
Yeah, and I like the idea as a place. I want to learn more and more about it.
Actually, I believe I did some research in this, and apparently, you probably know better than me. It is a deep cut from actual Marvel comics. It's a location that's been used in Marvel publications before. I don't exactly ask me which ones, but apparently in the past it was a little bit racist. Where miscellaneous, exactly, Miss Foxy, miscellaneous Asian bad guy den, where you would if you're going to cast the Mandarin in his traditional, nefarious Oriental person way, that might be some of the kind of characters you'd find in Madripoor. Which they've done a little bit of a scrub of that, and there's no Asian people, which is interesting actually. I was like, isn't this supposed to be in Indonesia? And there's no Asian people there at all.
Yeah, it's a lot of look like very very typical Central European people.
Yeah, it's big guys with my big muscly guys with tattoos and leather jackets. It's like the biker bar from Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, right? Where he does the tequila dance.
That is terrifying.
It'd be fun. That'd be fun to see. That'd be Pee Wee Herman Marvel crossover. That's this week's crossover. Pee Wee meets the Guardians. It writes itself, I tell you.
In space, porkies. But yeah, this it kind of gives way to a lot of the thirds we both really enjoyed in season 2. That more of that social commentary, and it still keeps some of those threads going. Like it exposes the current batch of super soldier serum was probably taken from Isaiah, who we met in episode 2. But aside from that, a lot of the social element of this was gone, and this is a very action orientated episode. And got Agent 13, Sharon Carter, back in action after. Sharon Carter after being quite a nice little addition to Captain America Soldier, played by Emily Van, and she's a badass.
She's good in this. I enjoyed seeing her pop up in a slightly different role. There were some weak points in this episode for me. One being, again, spoilers. You've been warned.
It's a screen, ladies and gentlemen. Spoiler.
The scene where they're in the big meeting, so Bucky and Falcon have to take on the persona of bad guys. Bucky basically replays the role of Winter Soldier while entering Madripoor with Zemo, and Falcon has to pretend to be a
Smiling Tiger.
Smiling Tiger is a weapons dealer or something like that. And while we're in a meeting with a person that's come to Madripoor to visit, his phone goes off Falcon's phone goes, it starts buzzing, and the very paranoid person they're meeting insists that he answer it on speaker, and it's his sister who's nagging him about the bank stuff and the loan stuff from episode 1, and calls him Sam, and of course everything goes to shit from there. And I'm like, oh, look, I know he's not exactly an international man of mystery here, but come on, do we really clearly think that the Sam is that stupid? He's not that stupid. It's a
Foxy rookie. 100% rookie.
He's not that stupid. He's not that naive. It's a very convenient plot device to get the story to go where it needs to go, and then introduce what's her name, Carter, to save her ass afterwards. It's also a very convenient plot contrivance that she's having to hide out in Madripoor when people like Winter Soldier have been given pardons, considering what he did. I mean, she stole the shield and Falcon's wings to give back to him after Civil War. But he killed people, hundreds of people. It's like, oh, he's fine. He's fine.
See, those things that she stole are like American marks. You know, you just don't touch those. Don't fuck with those. So death sentence to her.
She's allowed to, and then like again, a very convenient. They won't say who they are. Who won't say who they are, Foxy? But it's a very convenient plot contrivance to get the story where it needs to go. And of course, there's a fight scene on the docks among shipping containers. It's a very, very tropey thing to do.
Particularly in TV, it's like, oh, we need an sequence. Loading dock cheap.
Everything. No one's going to shiver shit if you shoot there, right? You don't have to shoo people away or block streets.
Yeah.
So, despite all that, and my last little complaint about it was Zemo actually does a really badass thing, and he actually saves Bucky and Falcon at one point here under basically pinned down by enemy fire. But prior to saving him, he just has to put his mask on.
Yes.
Like, why? You didn't. They know who you are. They know what you look like. They've seen you. Like, what is the point? I was like, is that the mask going to give him some sort of powers, or has it got some sort of technology, like eye things that do something? Like, no, they do not. It's a balaclava, is what it is.
Yeah, it's a cool balaclava.
It's a cool balaclava. I kind of want one. But unless you're going to be knocking over a 7-Eleven, it really doesn't serve a great deal of purpose. And he wasn't knocking over a 7-Eleven.
He was stand very obvious to everyone on top of a shipping container, stood there, pulled it on all dramatically, and then jumped in and started singing. And then the next thing you see, he sees an expensive car and steals it, and he's not wearing his mask anymore.
I thought so too. I thought it was going to go somewhere, Foxy, but it really didn't go anywhere. My Foxy said I thought it was something to do with the masked superhero, is it? But it didn't go anywhere, and it was just it was almost fan service because I assume he wore that mask. So masked super soldiers, Foxy said. I assume he wore the mask in the comics, so that's why that was there. It was a bit of fan service.
Collar on his jacket and the mask. Those are kind of classic Zemo costumes. So
I've been complaining a lot here, but that said, it was a solid episode.
Yeah,
one of those episodes that moves the story forward. I think they really need to hit the next one out of the park, though.
I feel like the first one didn't really land for me. The second one was it was a marked improvement in the storytelling as well as character work. Everything just really came into and clicked. And this one, Daniel Brewer is fantastic. Said it before, I'll say it again. He is awesome. And I feel like maybe they just had two people coming in because you had him coming in and affecting the relationship that only just got of Bucky and Sam back together. And maybe it was a little early to have another big element there. And not only Mo, but then you suddenly have Carter come back in well, and she still show in her fight sequences because she looked fucking cool. And it's like there's a lot, but also not much.
It was. You're right. There's a lot going on, but really nothing of substance in there. Interestingly, we do see some development of the fake Captain America, and it really started to sort of push the character towards the evil sort of character we think he's going to become. And interestingly and disappointingly, Wyatt Russell has said he has received death threats for his role as Captain America, which is just such a 2021 thing to actually be happening right now. I mean, the guy plays it really effectively because he's really obnoxious, and that's why they hired him.
Fans are stupid.
People are stupid. I mean, like, he's gonna lose the shield by the end of the series. Come on. He's not keeping it. They're not making a movie with Wyatt Russell in it. I don't think so. Really. So, I'm enjoying it still. I thought it was fine. I think it's still got potential to be a really good series and sort of maybe even better than WandaVision. Someone I know.
Halfway point is the thing. Like, okay, they've still got a lot to reveal here. Really, like, who is the power broker? That whole episode 3 is power broker. We don't meet the power broker. No, we know, and let's a twist, and it's Sharon Carter or something like that. But it's halfway point. Like, I feel like you still have a lot of story to tell in 3 episodes.
There's a lot to tell, and so I kind of like felt like this one a little bit like the episode in WandaVision where they just told Wanda's backstory again.
Yeah,
and it was like that. If you go back and watch the episode, we were kind of like, okay, I knew all that. Maybe I didn't see all that, but I knew it. I don't feel any differently about her now because of it. I mean, some people maybe did. I didn't. And this one, I was like, it's not quite the same. It's like, okay, that was kind of cool. Sharon Carter's cool. Zemo's cool. But what do we actually achieve in this episode?
Yeah.
We found out there was a power broker. That's kind of interesting. You know, we get another look at the Flag Smashers being Robin Hood-esque characters.
Yeah.
In the sense that they're robbing this global relief agency and giving it to the people in the refugee camp. So I stand by my previous statement that maybe they won't be all bad, though. Interestingly, that they decided to agree that basically they blew the place up and killed the people inside. Maybe I was thinking, well, maybe they are going to be the big bads after all.
I was fine the elements where they were cut to Morgenthau and just her dealing death of the relative and just that kind of shaking her. I found that compelling storytelling this episode. And then it suddenly, I didn't believe it when she just let people die. I feel like, okay, yeah. I feel like you needed to get to point, but I feel like I missed a key character moment to accept that as your next step. And it just it felt a little jarring suddenly going from they making an effort to make sure the places they were attacking were the security guards or people that worked for them and the innocent not involved to suddenly going, yeah, that's what I am now. It was like,
it was the motivation was a bit weak.
Yeah.
But then again, when you've got 6 episodes, you get 6 hours of story to tell.
Yeah.
You are kind of pushing it a little bit. You can't get that. Everything doesn't get.
They should use the screen time from the episode of WandaVision where they just retold the backstory. You put it in here so that they have more time.
It's the kind of thing when if they get this wrong, right? If we get to the end, I felt rushed.
Yeah.
Then they've got no one to blame but themselves because they're making it for Disney. Disney are making it for Disney. So, they've got no excuses. I'm fairly certain if Marvel had come back and said, we want 7 episodes to tell this story, Disney possibly go, okay.
Yeah.
If you wanted 24, well, that's maybe a bit different. Considering WandaVision had 9. Before we transition off Marvel, did you see the trailer for Loki?
I did. You read my mind. I was going to segue into that Loki trailer. And now the first Loki trailer, a bit of a hodgepodge all over the place, very, very much just kind of reminding you of a little bit, not really giving you any of what the story of the season is potentially going to be. This new trailer 2, we get a lot more of what is actually going on, and we get really nice to see ramifications of actions in the movies. They they talk about how Loki takes Odin's cube thing and Olsen's character to actually the timeline. We call back to what Tilda Swinton's character was talking about with Smart Hulk in Avengers game about that potential happening. So it's great to see that they've got those occasions. It's going to be interesting to see how they play, because it seems like they're be jumping from different potential timeline to potential timeline. So we may very well see a lot of characters in very, very different representations. This feels like it could be a bit of a lead into the what if is that is coming. I'm very curious.
I'd be a bit disappointed if they're going to be jumping around in time like that. I felt it was a massive opportunity that they've missed here, not to include a band of dwarfs who were stealing things in the plot along with Loki.
You don't know that's going to happen.
Not the trailer. They could surprise us, I suppose. What do you make of Owen Wilson?
It's a bit of a different role for him. It's not his typical straight comedy he has generally been made for. He's obviously done serious roles and things in the past. Don't quite know what his relation. I feel like he's going to be almost like a PO for Loki's prisoner kind of thing, and that touch and maybe a little bit of that buddy cop vibe to it. I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't know why. I need to be surprised.
I'm glad to see Owen in something again. It's been a while. The last thing I saw him in was that thing he did with on Amazon Prime with
yes, with Julia Roberts, right?
Not Julia Roberts.
No, the other one. Salma Hayek.
Salma Hayek, and that was weird, and not in a good way. So I'm curious to see him pop up in something Marvel related. I'm very fucking excited that Richard E. Grant's involved, who is far and away one of my favorite actors. You know, come on holiday by mistake. Threaten me with a dead fish.
I demand the finest wine humanity.
So we are fans, and Richard E. Grant was my favorite thing about the last Star Wars movie as well, being the evil Imperial captain. He was so good at that. So I'm excited. He hasn't got a title. His character doesn't have a name yet. I don't recall seeing him in the trailer.
No, I don't think I saw him either. Yeah.
But I'm excited to see what becomes of it. And I mean, Hiddleston has been far and away one of the most compelling characters playing Loki in the series so far, and we've said many times their villains tend to be their weak point. So I can't wait.
Yeah, I still maintain that the only thing that is kind of tainted with Loki is he's not a villain, no out villain anymore. He's an anti. But that thing. Oh, here we go.
I think we have our co-host Foxy. Your dog delivery has arrived. There he is. There's our co-host, and he's a bit camera shy.
There we go.
We did get a special request. We got a special request this evening to show
the box.
more Archimedes tonight, and that's what we, if you ask, we deliver. You asked for Archimedes, we delivered. So there you go. Archimedes vision for the evening. We should have to get a second camera for you so you can. Archimedes.
We're now going into the hot seat there. Archimedes, what's going on?
Archimedes, it's an interesting analysis there, Archimedes. Are you saying it's really about man to humanity to man, or the use of Tom Hiddleston as a Christ figure? What do you?
His face expression will reveal.
There he is. There's the man.
We're going to suddenly get more viewers.
I don't think Archimedes cam is necessarily a bad thing. Huskies are he is a talker when he feels like it.
Not really. He moans. I don't know if that is the same.
It's about talking, yeah.
Every now and then he does a Stevie Wonder impression, but that's it.
I did live with Archimedes for a little while at my house in Thomastown, and he is a dog who knows his own mind.
Yep.
He will do what he wants to do. And he will not be told differently by many people.
Husky. Yes, he is a husky. He is. In every way he's broken.
He's a very attractive dog. Is it a husky? He's a husky, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. Huskies and Malamutes confuse me.
Malamutes are bigger. They've got a more of a bear kind of face.
Anyway, so there we go. That is our third coast.
Marvel update.
A Marvel update. Very excited. Loki comes out next month on Disney Plus or on torrents for the rest of us who won't pay for their shit. While we're talking superheroes, though, I actually saw this man in person for the second time within a month, I think, which is remarkable considering our track record.
Yeah.
Considering I saw you a month or 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was the first time in about 8 months, your birthday last year. So when we went to the wrestling on Friday night. If you shout out to Wrestle Rock, they have a show on May 15th if you're interested and you're local. And you put me onto a new show on Amazon Prime. An animated superhero series called Invincible, and this is a fucking universe away from Marvel, people. If you're thinking we're going to sit here and rant again like we did about Justice League or any of the shit we just talked about, this is very, very different. One of the creators of this is Robert Kirkman. For those of you who are not familiar with Robert Kirkman, he's probably best known for his work on The Walking Dead, amongst other things. Fear the Walking Dead. Some stuff with Creepshow, maybe. He is, I guess, put it lightly, well known for his work in horror. So I think we actually reviewed it on my other podcast, which is unfortunately discontinued, King for a Day. We reviewed one of King's compilation movies. I can't remember the name of it. George Romero wrote some of it and directed some of it. But it might have been one of the Creepshow 2, or maybe Creepshow 2 actually. And Robert Kirkman worked on that. And I was like, my God, it's like Horrorception. It's like all the stars in the world of horror align. Romero, King, Kirkman. It was Creepshow 2, which isn't very good. But one of the sections, they actually had a special effects guy who walked out on the production halfway through, and so Robert Kirkman actually had to finish it. It was like the first thing he'd ever done, and he was working with like George Romero and Stephen King. You're like, how cool is that? I'm sorry, I'm nerding out.
All right, now let's do a bit of shall we? The son of the most powerful superhero is about to become something greater than himself. Something bold, something universal, something invincible. From the comics to the screen, Invincible is Mark Grayson's journey becoming Earth's next defender after his father, Nolan Grayson, also known as Omni-Man. It's a very basic descriptor.
Great cast. So Mark is voiced by Stephen Yeun, who probably best known. He's been nominated for an Academy Award this year, I believe.
Yeah,
and probably best known for his role on The Walking Dead. Sandra Oh plays his mother, Debbie. J.K. Simmons plays his father, Nolan, aka Omni-Man. And he even looks like J.K. Simmons. Like, he's really awkward. Like, he looks like J. Jonah Jameson as a superhero.
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to put this point with you in a second. Is does it detract from the characters when you know exactly who they are? Like, you never stop thinking that's J.K. Simmons, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Other big names in here: Walton Goggins,
Zazie Beetz.
Mark Hamill would be my perfect example. As soon as I heard his character, That's Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
Clancy Brown, Seth Rogen. I believe Seth Rogen actually produced this. Him
Yes.
and Mahershala Ali.
Yep.
Mahershala Ali, Michael Dorn, John Hamm. It's a all hands on deck, huge cast.
Yeah. Every in there. Holy shit! I didn't even realize Zachary Quinn did the voice of Robot.
And I forgot Zazie Beetz. Name you probably know her. She was in Joker as his love interest who lived down the hall.
And she also plays Domino in Pool 2.
That's right. So I'm very rude of me not to mention her. So it's a huge star-studded cast.
Yes.
And as you sort of know, it's basically really a parody of the Justice League initially. And man, I want to go spoiler-free with this one because I can't tell you how much I want my audience to watch this. People, if you like superhero films, if you like horror films, if you like hard-edged superhero films, think Super, the James Gunn film, which no one saw. If you like horror and you like superheroes, you're going to enjoy this. It's got a super hard edge to it, and the first episode is an absolute masterpiece because it lulls you into this false sense of security. I will spoil it by saying we see the Guardians of the Globe, who are the Justice League. They are that similarly so obviously. It's on the money. So Omni-Man is Superman. We've got the Red Russian instead of Flash. We've got a Wonder Woman character, an Aquaman character, a black character, Batman character, and an Aquaman character. It's really just, but we see them foiling an attack on the White House by a couple of supervillains. And it's all fairly G-rated.
Yeah,
it's nicely done. It's always like a Super Friends cartoon. Yeah, and it's with a nice sort of more contemporary edge to it. But the end of the episode, and I'm not going to say what happens, is fucking brutal. One of the most brutal things I've seen in a animated series before. I mean, maybe Rick and Morty might pull it off, but it would be played for laughs.
Yeah, this is not played for laughs.
This is not played for laughs. It is brutal. There was one particular thing that happened to one of the characters, and you were like, and I would probably have to talk to you after air because I was like, oh.
Is it what happens to the Red Russian?
No, what happens to the Wonder Woman parody? So. But should I just note, in case there's anybody watching who's fairly sensitive, no sexual violence.
Yep, no sexual
nothing like that, which I think is probably just a step too far. If you think when I say hard edge, really hardcore, nothing like that. No, nothing of that nature, but really violent.
Yeah.
So you've got this really weird 2-track story going here between Mark sort of discovering his powers as a think of a half Kryptonian, so Superman's kid. And he's also thinking of him kind of having a Spider-Man-y element as well because he's in high school.
But that's it. Yeah, there's like half of it is like Titans, where it's like young teenagers, young adults playing in that superhero thing, coming together as a group. A lot of the typical high schooly drama element of it, it's like oh. Meets girl, boy likes girl, blah 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 blah, drama. But then it's juxtaposed by very, very biting, realistic, just casual conversations with these adult superheroes, all the sort of like grizzled superheroes, like the sequence with the Russian at the picnic. He's just talking to his friend and. It's actually really kind of interesting conversation they have. It's not about really anything to do with what happened in the show, beyond just a literal slice of life moment of a superhero and how that life of their partner. It's brilliant. It's brilliantly done.
It's well done on multiple levels. The action is outstanding, and I enjoy the harder edge to it. exploration of what life might really be like if you're a superhero type character going to high school is interesting. The adult life of Omni-Man and his wife and how they relate to each other is interesting. How a superhero dad and son relate to himself is really quite interesting. It's it's so well. It's perfectly. I would say perfectly balanced. Perfectly balanced because you have a fairly. We know what happened at the end of the first episode. The characters in the show do not know what happened at the end of the first episode. So we have a sense of impending dread because we know what potentially is coming. Which, let's face it, we know what's coming. And that revelation, we start to get to know these characters. We get to like these characters. So we have a sense of impending personal or emotional threat to what's going to happen to these characters we love. It's going to tear apart characters in relationships we start to feel a part of in a way. And an incredible sense of impending physical threat by what's coming or what we are fairly sure is going to happen, because a physical threat that is impossible to defend against is waiting in the wings in this series. Sorry, I'm trying to be very cryptic without actually giving it away. It's so good. I just can't.
I love the interaction that Grayson has with Alan the alien, and just this little bit like the way. Yeah, it's not really a spoiler, but there's an egg that seems to periodically come to Earth, and Omni-Man has been the person that stops him sinking, and he just falls off, and so Invincible goes up for the first time. He's kind of taking over this responsibility. He flies up and has this pretty cool fight with Alien, and just sit down, and they realize, oh, there's a clerical error.
It's like you're from Uraf, aren't you?
It's just
it was very funny. It's weird, right? Because that's almost a Rick and Morty-esque gag, right? That would be right at home in Rick and Morty. And most of his show, the comedy is fairly subtle. It's a very broad comedy moment, but it works.
Yeah.
It really worked, and I'm like, I was so surprised. I'm like, because it kind of took me. It's like none of the rest of the episodes at that tone.
Yeah,
it's just in there, and you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. But it's unlike what I feel has happened in so many TVs where there's a lot of filler episodes. This one just kind of informs you more about the characters, and it educates you more development of the characters in series as well. Well, it's like, okay, these human moments, these human interactions, this is how those other scenes in other scenes should really be played. It shouldn't be kind of a meanwhile in universe A.
So this is based on an actual physical comic, so this is not something that's been made just for TV. The Invincible comics, I think, were about 20 years ago or something.
No.
Invincible first appeared as part of Savage Dragon 101, August 2002.
Oh, that I don't like that.
Its own first appearance in his own title in 2003, so it's 18 years ago.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And yeah, so the comic book was written by Kirkman as well.
Yes.
So it's
and
really nice.
they absolutely nail artwork as well. So looking at the animation of this, it is literally ripped from the comic. I haven't gone with a different style, anything, and it just captures the beauty of it. The simplicity of the artwork in the comics was beautiful, and especially in contrast to so many other comics out there, the use of color, the line work, all fantastic, and the paneling, and they just so successfully transplant that into moving animation. It's really quite impressive.
It was I can't speak highly enough for it. Definitely one for when the kids have gone to bed.
Yeah.
Definitely one for the kids. It's not for children.
Yeah.
And I am we talked about it at length before, but in a lot of other parts of the world, animation isn't just for children. It's very much a Western conceit that it's just for kids. You know very well. I brought you back an example from Japan of that,
and you gave me in a restaurant. You asshole.
I give. I'm a giver. That's what I do. But
a gift from Travis in a public place if it comes in a thin plastic bag.
It really did. You should have seen the look that I got from the guy I bought it off. It was worth every penny. But I think that this is a great example of when animation can work for adults.
Yes.
And there's an increasing number of those going around.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. All right. Do you want to have a quick talk about the Courier, and I'll talk a little bit about Made for Life?
We're winding down here, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone else in between and undecided. I went to the movies yesterday. If you're
again
one of our friends based in another country, envious. We have no COVID here, so touch wood. And good time for a cough. And we are allowed to go to the movies. So I went down the road to my local village, and I checked out The Courier, which is the latest Cold War spy thriller starring Benedict Bandersnatch and Cumberbatch. Sorry, and just for anybody who feels like commenting in the chat or commenting later, if you're like Carrot Kitty, is Benedict Cumberbatch hot? I've spoken to two people in the last 24 hours who have divergently different ideas about that point. But anyway, he plays Cold War spy Greville Wynn and his Russian source try to put an end to the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's a very brief synopsis.
Is this on a real thing?
This is based on a true story.
Okay.
So Benedict plays Greville Wynn, who is a British businessman who we're not exactly sure what kind of business he is, but he works with the best manufacturers, as he says so many times. And he has to travel a little bit around Europe occasionally and has been known to do business in the Eastern Bloc, in Hungary, Czechoslovakia, that kind of thing.
I reckon he works for the same military group that the people from Raiders of the Lost Ark, because they work with top men.
Top men. He's actually not a spy or any kind at all. He literally is a businessman, and he he works in Eastern Europe. Meanwhile, we have a Russian colonel wants to start supplying information to the Americans because he's afraid of what Khrushchev might do in terms of starting a nuclear war. This is prior to the Cuban Missile Crisis. He's played by Mirab Ninidze. I'm probably pronouncing that extremely poorly. I don't. He is Russian. I don't think I've seen him in anything before, but he's very good in this. He plays Oleg Penkovsky, and he passes some information to some Americans successfully. And they are very keen to start using him as a source. But they feel like because he's such a high-profile member of the Russian leadership, Soviet leadership, that they won't be able to use a regular spy or a regular asset like somebody out of one of the American or British embassies, because that'd be too obvious. So they attempt to recruit Greville Wynn because he has a perfect excuse to be there. He is a well-known businessman who actually does business in communist countries, and it's perfectly natural for him to try and extend that into the Soviet Union and start to sell whatever it is he sells to the Soviets, and that they will use him as initially a way to contact Penkovsky, but later on as an actual way to courier information from Penkovsky back to the West. And that's kind of our setup. In addition to Benedict Cumberbatch and Mirab, who's I'm not going to throw that surname again, better well-known faces in here. Jessie Buckley plays Benedict Cumberbatch's wife. Jessie Buckley, for those who listen regularly, might remember she was the young woman in I'm Thinking of Ending Things, the Charlie Kaufman thing, which is fucking weird, but she's amazing in it. And she, I think, is one of my most watched actresses. She's going to be a big star.
Okay.
She's probably the other sort of well-known face in here. This is a fairly straight-ahead Cold War spy movie.
Okay.
If any of you, it's directed by Dominic Cook, who name isn't instantly familiar to me. I don't think I've seen anything he's ever done before. He's fairly early on in his career. Have you ever watched The Bridge of Spies, which I think was a Spielberg film, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, with Tom Hanks, right?
And Mark Rylance. I think it's Mark Rylance won his Oscar for that.
That's right.
If you ever watched Bridge of Spies and thought, could this be more British? Less color in life, less artful. Could we just
is it taking it to the Gary Oldman
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy?
Yeah.
Not quite that technical. It's more easy. I found that very hard to watch and hard to follow.
Yeah.
This is a lot easier to follow than that. It's fairly straight ahead, right? So, he goes to Russia. He puts himself in great risk to, help his country. But Cuban Missile Crisis pops up, and all of a sudden, he's got to go back one last time, one last job, one day before retirement. And, all the while, his wife, played by Jessie Buckley, she gets a really bad run in this film, actually. And that found it bother me a little bit because it was a very tropey thing to do. It's a real trope in movies, like, only if his wife would get out of a great man's way and let him get on with doing whatever he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, think of you ever saw Walk the Line? Johnny Cash's first wife in that film.
Yeah.
She was really whining and complaining and always like, "Well, you're going away too much," and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if his real wife was actually like that or not, but it's a real trope, and it kind of bothered me that they were sort of going down that path here because basically he's had an affair at some point in the past. She doesn't trust him. And so there's massive pressure on him to stop going from a personal risk perspective and from a relationship perspective. But I guess what does balance that out is the real strength of a relationship formed between Greville and Penkovsky. You really believe that they've actually built a friendship. Yeah. And you don't see that very often in a spy movie. You actually spend some time working on the relationship between two of the characters. Working together in this instance. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it overall. It's just like I just forgot about it the minute I walked out of the theater. Other than I guess Googling the real guy and figuring out that that really did happen. It just we've seen it before, right? I mean, Bridge of Spies did it better. This is maybe a little bit more historically accurate. Less showy. Bridge of Spies, there's no courtroom drama here. But I mean, like the spy movies, they're such a trope, right? I've been doing them for a long time. If we went to the 60s, I'm sure there'd be dozens of films about Western operatives who risking their lives and trying to smuggle intelligence out of Russia.
I kind of feel like they're a genre of themselves, and I think we kind of point where it's extremely hard to deliver one that feels unique or fresh.
It really is. It's kind of all been done.
Yeah, and we've not had. Yes, there have always consistently been wars since World War and the Cold War, but nothing as, I guess, marketable as World Wars and the Cold War. There were very, very obvious, clear-cut, good and bad characters in this. The Nazis were bad, the Russians bad. And then going into a Cold War, like, well, no one's really good or bad. We can play with that, fine. And then going into, like, Afghanistan and all of the multitude of little wars all over the world. It's like too soon? Is it too soon for a spy movie?
Well, they've been done with Zero Dark 30,
spy movie though.
Syriana had a spy-ish element to it. I think there've been lots of movies made about the war. The war on terror has been going for almost 20 years now.
Jesus.
So there have been plenty of movies made. I don't have a whole lot of spy movies made out of it because I don't know what kind of role spies have in that war to a great degree. It's very much a war of drones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there was definitely a spy element to Zero Dark 30. I mean, the scenes of like the characters following the people around the markets in Pakistan and bugging phones and that kind of thing.
I feel like that would be something you could do. It is drones, and there was that little blip of time where it was like one person on screen, and you got like phone, you got Ryan Reynolds in Buried. I kind of like you could sort of do something like that just with a drone operator who's literally on the real time thing.
Eye in the Sky did something like that about 5 or 6 years ago. The Helen Mirren, Aaron Paul film. If you haven't seen Eye in the Sky, it's excellent. But it's all about drone operators and that kind of. It's kind of. I mean, look, I'm not dissing the Courier. The Courier's fine. If you're heading down to the movies with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever on a Saturday night, and you're like, that film looks all right. No, that's the one starting soon. You're going to enjoy it just fine if you like spy movies. Benedict gets naked in it. Yeah. Not my kind of guy. But it's if that's your thing, well, there's a bit of Benedict bum in there. But it's perfectly competently made. It's perfectly fine.
It's a perfectly formulant movie.
Just don't expect to, which is fine, right? I mean, not every movie is Gone with the Wind or, Citizen Kane or something. Just don't expect it to be setting your world on fire. And if you don't like spy movies, I'd give it a miss. I don't think there's nothing particularly special about this one that's going to elevate it above what most normal spy movies are.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I'm just going to quickly talk about episode 1 of a new Amazon Prime show called Made for Love, starring quickly developing favorite actresses, Kristen Milotti, who was the lead in Palm Springs. She also played the mother in How I Met Your Mother, apparently.
So you're forgetting to mention she was in Black Mirror. She was in the USS Callister. That's what most people know. She was in USS Callister in Black Mirror. In the Star Trek parody episode, she was wonderful in it.
There you go. But Made for Love is a young on the run after 10 years in a suffocating marriage to a tech billionaire, suddenly realized that her husband has implanted a revolutionary monitor device in her brain that allows him to track her every move. The comedy series is a darkly absurd and cynically poignant story of divorce. It follows Hazel Green, a 30-something-year-old on the run after 10 years in suffocating marriage to Byron Gogol, a controlling tech billionaire. And that sums it up. This series has also got Ray Romano in it, and I don't know if I've ever consumed any Romano content that straight sounded more dirty in my mind than it meant to be. I've never like Everybody Loves Raymond. I've never watched that or anything.
If you haven't seen the Big Sick, you really must put it on your list.
Sick.
Because I'm with you, actually. I never liked Everyone Loves Ray or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
I hated it, but so I think actually the first and only Ray Romano thing I ever saw was The Big Sick.
Oh no, tell a lie. He voiced of Manfred in Ice Age, and I've watched 3 of those, so there we go. But yes, it's really early on, but it's kind of cool and weird, and it's that similar kind of production feel vibe and that sardonic comedy element, but up against like slightly serious poignantly as Palm Springs, and obviously that's similar only further because of Kristen, but it's kind of good. I'm gonna go back for more.
Where are you watching it?
On Prime Video. So only the first 3 episodes currently available. Episode 4, 5, 6, and then it seems like they're doing a couple of episodes, so drops every couple of weeks or something like that. or once a week they drop three episodes. I'm curious about it. Definitely got something to it. I don't know how far that's going to go, but I'll give
it does sound
more
intriguing
later on. Yeah,
She's
it's an
certainly
interesting idea. The implant kind of reminds me of the Black Mirror at the Grain, and so
the total what was it with Total History of Us?
Yes, it. So mix that with a bit of palm sings, and you're probably in the right kind of ballpark of how this series feels. There's also a bit of, remember that series we watched, Upload?
Which was called, sorry?
Upload.
Oh yeah. But I like that.
Yeah, there's a little of that kind of feel to it. Well, it's not as sweet as that or comedy buzzed as that. It definitely skews darker than Upload, but there's a little bit of that flavour to it. So it's worth having a look.
Is it played for laughs or is it played for creep value more, you reckon?
Neither. It's like there's not been any out and out funny bits. It's like that a little cringe comedy, but that kind of close to home is like, oh yeah, no, laughing about it after the fact, or kind of feeling of, you know, the serotonin release afterwards. And, you know, that's kind of like you see. That's amazing. She escapes from this hatch, and I don't know whether they just used the where something bad happened, or if it was just a well planned thing. But it plays perfectly, and she did really well. I won't spoil it because I just want, if you watch it, what your take on it is, whether it's an accident that they came because it worked, if it was planned. But either way, it's sort of like that's okay. All right, cool.
It sounds moderately interesting. If I have time, I might check it out.
Mm-hmm. And the tough life of a student.
Yeah. I got. You mean, as Foxy B observed earlier, it's reading actual scientific papers is not necessarily easy. It gets to a bit where they have the actual math involved in what they've decided to study, and you're like, I'm going to take your word for it. I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, not the sort of thing that you're going to really want to have on order, that's for sure. Oh, Foxy, Ray Romano is awful, and I can't stand his voice.
Yeah, it was. I don't. It wasn't. His TV show wasn't great.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've kind of run out of things to talk about. Next week, I do want to talk about the new Square Enix game that came end of last week. Outriders, available on PlayStation, Xbox, and it's on X Game Pass. Mm-hmm. It's a bit Division-y, a bit Gears of War-ish, a little bit of Anthem in it too. So I'm enjoying it. It's you can go through the story on your own, or you can team up with two other friends. I'm looking for friends.
I need friends. Yes. Could this be the first time we break the curse?
Oh, and actually get to play.
or not that curse. There are many curses. There are a plethora of curses. Only the other curses where you find a new game and you go, I really like this. And then like 6 months later, they shut it down. They're like, sorry, that game, no one's making it anymore. You know, like
I hadn't even thought about that.
What was the other one? Was it Bloodborne or the one that you played instead of Borderlands? Or
Battleborn.
Battleborn, Overwatch thing.
It had enough friends to Overwatch. I think.
I know, but it just kind of got mixed up at the time. It just kind of looked a little bit like Overwatch, and Overwatch is like
came out like a week of each other or something.
It was like the 800-pound gorilla in the room was Overwatch, and no one's like, I know I was going to play Battleborn, no matter how good it was.
Anthem.
He has a the kiss of death.
I really do. But yes, I will be talking about that because I've probably already put about 20 hours into it this week. Actually, next week we probably won't have because I'm going on holiday for the first time in 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm actually going somewhere where I've never been before. The express idea is writing or actually going out and things and doing like sitting in cafes and doing nothing.
It's crazy talk.
I know, it's weird. People keep saying, "Oh, why then now? Because it's all rainy." Like, yeah, I can't like that.
Not raining yet. It's actually beautiful. I'm actually very much looking forward to going to the football because I've been going to football again this year. I'm looking forward to going without putting sunscreen on. It just feels wrong putting sunscreen on going to a football. But it's been so warm. It's been warm and sunny here. It's 28 degrees tomorrow. So that's Celsius.
Queensland, it's apparently going to like 50% chance of rain. And,
okay. Well, it's flooding. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, hopefully they don't close the state.
Don't put that shit out there, man.
It happened to me.
Yeah. I've had enough bad luck. I'm having good luck now. Thank you very much.
Fingers crossed for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Missy, for jumping in the chat there. Even though most of it was about Archimedes, which this for you.
Please can.
Boy. There you go. Last hit of husky goodness.
For those of you who listen to the actual podcast, this should inspire you to check out the recorded one because I'm sure it made no sense.
Yeah. So the quick rundown show, we talked about Time Bandits, our latest chain movie. I have chosen Sean Connery's last acting role of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as our next movie. I also watched Poison Ivy 2 as penalty for not finishing Bright Young Things. We talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3. We talked about first 3. We cautiously talked about Invincible, the first couple of episodes without any spoilers. Travis talked about The Courier, starring Benedict Batch, and I gave you thoughts on the new Amazon Prime show, Made for Love.
Excellent. Thank you very much for listening. If you are keen, you enjoy the show, jump on the Facebook page. The Armchair Producers. George can maybe remember to drop in the chat or in the podcast description. Tune in on Twitch, Facebook, or the YouTubes when we go live.
Prime account, you can use your Twitch Prime account to subscribe to us. Really helps us, and it's free. And if you don't use it, nothing else. You're just giving Jeff Bezos more money. Don't do that.
You might as well give it some money to somebody who actually needs it. And Jeff ain't it. Otherwise, if you like again, we've mentioned her a lot tonight. Our one of our listeners this week, Cara Kitty, actually jumped on and left some. She jumped on a few weeks ago. Actually made a suggestion. I watched the show, and now we've had spent a little bit of time actually discussing her thoughts on our review of her suggested animated movie. So if you can do the same, you can jump on a stream or jump on and watch the stream and leave a comment like she did and say, hey, I'd love to hear what you guys think about epic movie or something like that. Please don't.
We've had not an epic
but you know what I mean? Like whatever it is. And if we've got time, we'll check it out and give you our thoughts.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.